Okay, we're on the last leg of section 2 now. So we're going to talk about the second part of our exercises with reference to the Rotary Foundation. And the way of review, we're talking about what the foundation does. It enables Rotarians to advance in world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the various projects that they do in health. They're supporting education and the alleviation of poverty. We talked about grants. We're going to talk a little bit more about grants. We'll talk about the grant model. How can these various types of grants be used? What kind of grants are there? Anybody want to take a look at in your material? Take a look at TS1.
District grants and global grants.
There you go, district grants and global grants. I will tell you that in our district, we have a tendency to talk about the district grants as community grants. They're one and the same. They're more, as you can see from TS1, they're on a smaller scale, short term, usually on a local basis. Here in our district, they're usually one club doing a project in their community, or maybe up to 3 clubs working together. We have 2 outstanding district grants right now that each have 3 clubs working on each one of those grants. One club being the Point Club that does the reporting, and the other 2 cooperating with both manpower and dollar contributions. Global grants are much larger in scale, as you can see. They require clubs from at least 2 different countries. You can have various clubs. We have 2 global grants that I can think of that have more than 1 club in our district contributing and working on that particular project. There's usually, you'll find 1 club, again, the sponsoring club, that is responsible for the reporting on the progress of that particular project. You can see by the chart that if you're talking about district grants, again, they include all sorts of local efforts, such as disaster recovery, scholarship, and those kinds of things. If you look at the bottom of TS1, you'll see a footnote that talks about some other things that a district grant might include that we normally don't think of, such as supporting youth exchange, RILA, Rotaract or Interact, and some kinds of local construction. For instance, I know of 1 club that actually built a computer room in a classroom so that the students could work with the hardware in a secure and safe location. You'll see that it could also include travel for staff in those organizations that are cooperating in the project. So we're talking now about the grant model. If you take a look at the TS4, you can take a look at that model as it usually works. You can see that this decision tree, as it's commonly called, how it flows through the project. How many of you are involved in a district or a global grant now?
Taos Milagro, I think, is involved in one.
Hobbs is doing a global grant.
Yes.
Yes.
And Albuquerque Metro's doing a district grant.
That's right. Okay, so you've actually lived through the working of this model. I want to ask you what are the aspects of it with reference to the various portions of the areas of focus. They have to fall into one of these 6 categories, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
There's another aspect of it that I want to talk about a little bit that I think is very important and something we look at not only in the global grant area, but when we're looking at the various submissions for a district grant, and that's called sustainability. What do you think that means?
Can this project sustain over X amount of years?
Yeah, there's no real.
One example.
Go ahead.
I was going to say one example I've heard was that it doesn't need to have new parts, or it can be maintained locally, such that it's not just going to fall into disrepair and 3 years from now be overtaken by a jungle or something.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We found this out when we started working with the global grants years ago, that everybody would get gung-ho about putting in a good water system for a village, and going through the long process of getting the fresh water into the village, and a pump and all those kinds of things, the electrical things that you need to make something like that work. And then a year later, going back and checking up on things and finding out that the water system isn't working anymore because no one was trained how to fix the pump. And they had to tighten rules up, if you will, for those kinds of grants to make sure that part of the money was used to train a local villager on how to maintain that pump and how to repair it if it did break down. So sustainability is if you will, not only ensuring an ongoing source of income. We now have one grant where they're taking the fresh water that was meant to help bring in fresh water to a school in a village in Mexico. They're now the school is now paying for the operation of that system by bottling the water and selling it to the villagers at a nominal price that is low enough for the villagers to afford, but giving them the income to keep the project going. If you take a look at TS3, it talks about what sustainability is. You're looking at incorporating customary practices, but ensuring that the local leadership is involved in the process and that it continues to move along and prosper, keeping in mind the cultural aspects of the recipients. Taking a look also from an environmental standpoint, and a social standpoint, so that you create training programs for, as I mentioned earlier, as an example, training people to maintain and keep the equipment going, and getting grassroots interest to make sure that the locals monitor and continue to evaluate the process of the program. Are there any questions up till now about this?
Mhm.
We're talking really about the main purpose for some of the monies that we talk about when we're talking about fundraising for the foundation. Take a look at TS2, where you can see why this is not only worthy of the club's interest, but how the club can benefit from their own contributions. Somebody's clock is fast.
Sorry.
It's about 2 minutes fast. Anyway, take a look at TS2. We're talking about $1,000 contribution. Let's say that Mark did that, and Mark's money is going to be split in 2 different areas after it sits in the foundation for 3 years. That allows that money to be returned to the club in the form of what is called DDF. That's District Dedicated Funds. The World Fund gets $500 out of that, and that's used for money for the global grants. So what you're putting in, you're getting at least 50% of it back in that form. Our grants on a district level are minimum of $250 from the district back to the club, up to $2,000. We'll match what the club comes up with up to that amount, $2,000. I don't see that changing in the near future. And we have yet, since I'm working with grants, we have yet to have to tell a club that we don't have enough money to support their effort. So every club that's made an application, we've been able to help them get the application processed properly, and gotten the money for them to do whatever it was they wanted to do. We have had a couple of situations where a club has wanted to give the money to a nonprofit and let the nonprofit use that money for something, and that's a no-no. These are Rotary Club projects that are used to help other organizations, but not to be used as an outright donation to those kinds of organizations. Any questions on this? There are some things that I will tell you that you need to know as a present president of the club or a president-elect of the club, and that's with reference to getting into the grants business if you're not in it now. It's a great area to work in. I have watched a lot of clubs really get into this and really do some great things with it. But you need to have some training. We have that training. If you watch the district website, you'll see that it's going to be conducted in a number of ways. We're talking about using Zoom for some of the future training, but there is a requirement that there is a project manager, if you will, who is a member of the club that has to be trained. And that training for a community grant literally could be done in 5 or 10 minutes on a telephone. We try to do it a little more professionally than that, but it's not that big a deal. It just needs to be done. There is also some reporting requirements. A lot of this stuff is already out on a website at the district, as is the application and the memorandum of understanding between the club and the district for doing a district grant. Almost all of the material for a global grant is at the RI website, and they're a little more sophisticated than we are. They actually have forms that you can fill out right on the website to apply for a global grant. Global grants are $30,000 or more, and you get contributions not only from the district but from RI for doing those kinds of grants. Any questions on this?
Dom, I have a question.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, because I know a lot of people will ask me about this, what generally are the time frames for submitting grant applications?
Good question. We talked about this, as a matter of fact, today. It's going to be in the June, July time frame. There are some clubs that maybe should start looking at whatever project they want to apply for a grant now, and start getting to work on the basics for it. But actually, to submit it to the district, the dates are going to be published, but I can tell you it's either going to be the 1st or the 14th of June, 1st or the 15th of June to the 15th of July. That'll usually be the time frame. We'll be taking those grant applications as they come in this year and processing them and moving them forward so that we can get the money a little faster than we have in the past.
What about the global grants?
Global grants are there's really no set time frames for those because they are a little more difficult in preparing. They take more time. But again, that's an online process. And right now we're looking for a new global grant manager at the district level that will help the clubs in working on those. They don't have a time definite like the district grants do. Any other questions? One of the things you need to think about when you're working particularly on a district grant, since those are grants that historically speaking are within your own community, is you need to be thinking in terms of how can you use that project to enhance the Rotary image in your particular community. And that goes back to the communication, the external communications, and how you can work with other agencies in your community. Many times the recipient of the grant has the resources to help you with, if you want to use the term publicity about what particular project you're working on. I can say my particular club has done a couple of projects with the Roadrunner Food Bank here in Albuquerque. They can generate more publicity than the Rotary Club of Albuquerque ever could on its own. And they've done a wonderful job when we've worked with them on publicizing the projects that we came up with through our community grants.
So in the paperwork here, I'm seeing a minimum for the global grants, a minimum of 30,000.
Yes.
Is there a maximum?
I don't know of maximums. It would depend on the capacity of the club and what RI feels it can do to contribute to a particular project. Again,
So
some of the global
Do
grants
clubs?
maybe 30,000, but they may go on for more than a 1 year period of time. There's nothing that says you can't redo a global grant that's already in progress and extend it out over a longer period of time. So 30,000 is the minimum. I've never heard of a ceiling.
Okay, because I'm looking at the areas of focus page, and TS6, and I'm just wondering, like, say for education and literacy, do they build schools sometimes, or for disease prevention and maternal and child health, do they build hospitals sometimes, or is that too big, and
Well,
and who pays the doctors, who pays the teachers,
Yeah, you would probably find that RI would be more prone to paying the teachers and the technicians than they would in brick and mortar.
I thought that was always the case, Don.
I beg your pardon?
I said, I thought that was always the case, that Rotary didn't do bricks and mortar, but might do, computers or something like that.
They might help staff. They might help equip a hospital with equipment. But you're absolutely right. They do not do brick and mortar.
Okay, and you mentioned maybe helping with staff. But,
Yeah.
Okay, so capital and personnel, but not in infrastructure. Oh, I think I got my words wrong.
I can add something to that. Our club just was about to complete a global grant in Bangladesh, and like you said, we never were in the business of providing a building, but we needed to fund the salaries because what we were doing was we were putting together the last of the 5 grades. Over there, the elementary school goes 1 through 5, and we were building they're creating the last 5th grade class for them for this school. And where we had difficulty was Rotary may or may not fund or approve funding for salaries unless you can prove that it's sustainable.
Yeah.
And we were not able to do that. And so we ended up not getting a matching grant. But we were able to fund it anyway through a grant from another district. So, but it's I can't explain to you exactly the difference and why they turned us down, but it had to do with the sustainability of the teachers in terms of how they were going to be paid.
It's very difficult to sustain a salary for someone, because it's, okay, we have it for this year, but will we have it, 5 years from now?
And the Bangladesh government had said that they would then pick up the salaries after that, but we did not have any. I'm not sure exactly why or what else we would have had to have for RI to approve it. But whatever proof we had was not sufficient for them. So.
I'm going to bring up another one just as a question. Maybe, Dom, you have some insight. My understanding is the Bridges to Prosperity project got approved, right?
Correct.
The bridges,
So,
yeah,
isn't that pretty close to bricks and mortar?
no, not in their minds. I can see where you're going with that comment, but I'll also tell you that was a very close call because the bridges had already been started, and RI was not really pleased about. They kind of did that one, if you excuse the term, bass-ackwards.
Mhm.
And they finally got it through. It took a couple of people like Tom Walker and I think Tom Lindsay and some other people getting into the, if you'll excuse the term, getting in the politics of getting some of this stuff approved. But the bridges have been an ongoing project for a long time. What they were doing was trying to build some additional bridges, and they finally got that done.
But I guess maybe the message I have for everybody is,
That is not brick and mortar.
yeah, bricks and mortar is maybe a very narrow.
It is a building. It is an edifice.
Yeah.
And the bridges were a means of transportation to enable transportation. And I think that was the difference in those cases.
Hmm.
I'd like to add something here. And we, the Sunrise Club in El Paso, finished a project in India where we started it and built bathrooms for the schools, for certain schools, women's and girls' bathrooms, because the girls, and it went under education, but it was brick and mortar. The young ladies, when they become of age, don't have any privacy and they quit schools. So we built a bathroom so they could stay there. That project took about 5 years from beginning to end. It took forever to get done, but it got done, and it was funded. But I think it might have gone under education and not necessarily brick and mortar. But it was brick and mortar.
Well, it's brick and mortar, but I think their view of brick and mortar is literally building the school itself versus adding or changing something inside the school.
Mhm.
For instance, my club was able to build that computer room under a district grant, but that was not an addition to the building. It was just changing up some of the interior in the building to get that room in there.
So another good example might be the Guatemala Water Project, which is physical construction, but it's not a building.
It's not a building. And that falls into the category of if you look under the chart of areas of focus, that's under water and sanitation.
Yes, we provided latrines for these villages, but that's not considered bricks and mortar either.
No. I think yeah, that's right. But if you wanted to build an office building that would house the administration for that water system, that would be disapproved.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? This area I have found to be, in my view, is probably one of the classic visible examples of what Rotary is all about. And I guess roughly 40 years of working in Rotary, I have gotten the most satisfaction about watching and observing these grants come to fruition and the impact they've had either on a local community or internationally. And with that, I'm done, and that means you're done with section 2.
Awesome. Okay.
Right.
So a couple of things before we close. I'm going to send out, even for those of you who took part 1 last week, I'm going to send out the link for the survey. Whether you filled it out last week or not, we still want your input on how today went. And for those of you who took part 1 yesterday, we want your feedback on yesterday and today. So you're going to get a link to an online survey. So please fill that out. We also, obviously, we need your feedback on how this technology is working because this is a pilot. So that will be sent out to you. In some cases, people were able to take one half but not the other half, and I will work with you offline on how to get the other information to you. So we'll do that. Are there any questions or any feedback before we close? And we're going to schedule part 3 in February. I think I already sent out a calendar invite, but I will send out a reminder for that. We'll try to get part 3 done in February, just in time for pets.
I'm going to make a side note. I think 3 or 4 times we've talked about Myers-Briggs, the personality analysis tonight, and I think it's a very interesting thing. I'm going to make my side pitch for RILA. This is one of the things we teach the kids at RILA, and we have a great speaker there.
Yeah.
Talk to your kids about RILA.
Excellent. Any other feedback or questions before we close? If not, I just want to thank everyone, thank the facilitators, thank those of you who are participating. We very much appreciate it, and we will be in touch. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye-bye.